Welcome to In the Envelope, an awards podcast. I am your host, Jack Smart, awards editor at Backstage. I'm here to give you a front row seat to the Emmys, Oscars, SAG, and Tonys races. Who is in the running? What makes an award-worthy performance? And what are the secrets to giving one? These intimate, inspirational conversations with some of today's most talented stars provide you, dear listener, the kind of craft and career advice that could win you a statue of your own, and maybe, just maybe, a tantalizing glimpse in the envelope.
It is hard. It is hard to take a step back and say, yes, but how do I feel about it?
Yeah.
And I think it's important to take that moment to see how you feel about it before asking anybody else what they think.
Say your name.
Sam Sherlock.
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
I'm so good. How are you?
I'm good.
What is your title and what are you doing to help Teen Podcast?
Well, I'm a media operations and I am doing most of the social media for the podcast on our Twitter page and our Facebook group,
Way to
which
plug it.
Everybody should join and follow. And just making sure everybody gets those episodes.
Every Tuesday and Thursday for a month.
For 1 month.
Yeah, that was a lot.
And we're on SoundCloud, Spotify, and iTunes.
Good job. I've asked you here today also because of today's guest. And I do feel like today's guest is it's a big one. A big one.
It is a big one.
Probably the biggest one.
And I love her.
Yeah, we love her.
I've loved her for years. It's Debra Messing.
For those who couldn't tell from the intro snippet of her speaking, it's Debra Messing. Talk to me about Debra Messing.
I love Debra Messing. I've been watching Will and Grace since the beginning of Will and Grace. So when it came back, I was so excited.
And it's still just as good as it was.
They picked up right where they left off.
Totally.
It's amazing.
And in this interview, she gave us a very, very backstagey interview because even though we all think of Debra Messing as a TV person, she has an Emmy. You know, she's very much a TV person. There's Smash, there's Starter Wife, there's everything in addition to Will and Grace. But she's very much a theater person, and she lives here. And so all of her early career backstagey stories about her stage career.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, and she is a story machine. She was just pumping out all these amazing stories, and we got to get to it so you guys can all listen to it. But I think one of the themes of this interview is ask for what you want. Debra Messing is very good at that. She's living proof that if you design your life in the way that you envision it, others will provide that for you. She's kind of providing the textbook on how to do that.
That's great. That's some great advice.
It's great advice. As usual. It was such a treat to have her. Anything else? Any other orders of business we need to get to?
No, just follow our Twitter page.
Yes.
Facebook group us.
Follow
us everywhere.
There is exclusive behind the scenes content, we can say, on those social media channels.
That's true. There is. Yeah. We have photos of you with our guests.
Yes. Oh, God.
And we just have little snippets.
Yep. Oh, my God. Sam, thank you for joining us.
Of course. Anytime.
So see, were you worried?
I was worried. I still am worried.
You're going to sound great.
Okay.
And I bet Jamie's going to be like, Sam Sherlock, she has such a great recording voice. That's what he said about Kasey.
But
No. Okay.
I'll take it.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
This episode is brought to you by Barry on HBO. The second season of Barry was hailed by critics as fascinating and hilarious, damned funny, and audaciously original. For your Emmy consideration in Outstanding Comedy Series and all other categories, visit hbo.com/FYC for more on Barry. A reigning member of TV royalty, Debra Messing is a leading comedy actress, Primetime Emmy Award winner for NBC's Will and Grace. Her performance as Grace Adler has also earned her Golden Globe, SAG, and other nominations aplenty. Known also for Ned and Stacy, The Starter Wife, Smash, The Mysteries of Laura, and her work in feature films and on New York stages, Debra has valuable advice for actors looking to advocate for themselves, as she has done. Without further ado, the legendary Debra Messing. Hi.
Hi.
How's your day? Where are you going? You have press all over the city?
Yeah, I was doing Vulture, and then I'm doing the Paley Center Honors.
Tonight? Oh,
yeah.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
And where?
After this.
After this. Where do you live in the city? 'Cause you...
Upper East.
Oh, okay. But born in Brooklyn.
Yes.
But didn't grow up in Brooklyn.
No, I was born in Brooklyn and grew up in Rhode Island. And went to college in Boston, went junior year abroad in London.
Okay, same.
And then came back and went for my master's in acting at NYU.
Here.
Yes.
And, I mean, do you consider yourself a New Yorker?
Yes, I do. Absolutely.
Because with someone with your, resume or, your current workload, it does make sense for you to be in L.A., and you're not.
It does, and I'm not.
You thought about it, yeah.
I lived there for 12 years when I was doing Will and Grace, the first round, and then I did The Starter Wife out there as well, and then I got offered Smash,
which is so New York.
Yes, and I loved the pilot so much, and I had been looking for a reason to come back.
Gotcha.
And so we packed up. My son was 7 at the time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and we came back. And when Smash ended, we just felt like there's absolutely no reason to go back.
No regrets.
No regrets at all.
Good. Because I feel like so often, and I consider you to be a theater type too.
I am.
And the theater types are mostly here, but sometimes LA becomes this temptress that lures people away.
It does.
Hollywood.
It does. If you want to make a living, you have to go out to Los Angeles.
Sure.
Yeah.
In fact, was it always theater, or was it always film and TV, or was it always theater? Growing up, what was the dream?
Oh, the dream was theater.
Cool. Okay.
And only theater. Yeah.
Amazing. Do you see everything in New York?
I try to. Yeah, but I mean, I've been away. I've been away in Los Angeles shooting Will and Grace.
Sure.
So it's I get in and I'm like, okay, what can I see?
You see everything. Yeah. Wait, so what is the shooting schedule for Will and Grace? It's how many months out of the year?
We will be going from just after 4th of July through mid-December.
Oh, okay.
And then I come back 1 week a month.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, because that's how a 4-camera sitcom works. Mm-hmm. They work 3 weeks, and then they have a week to catch up on the writing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Right, and you guys have dozens and dozens of episodes a season, which is no longer the norm, I feel like, for TV.
No.
Yeah.
We're doing 18 episodes this season.
Oh, right. And how does it compare to, do you think that schedule is favorable compared to other gigs you've had?
I mean, there's nothing better than the sitcom schedule.
Oh, okay.
By far.
Yeah.
If you're doing a single camera comedy or a single camera drama, it could be 16-hour days every day.
I see.
And it could be 10 months straight. So it's really actually an inhumane schedule.
Yeah.
It's really, really hard.
And you've done it.
And I've done it.
Yeah.
I've done it. I did it in Mysteries of Laura. I did it on Smash. I did it on, And so obviously now coming back and getting a full week off a month and only working, in front of an audience 1 day a week or 2 days a week.
Sure.
It's much easier.
Yeah.
But it's limiting as well. Creatively, it's limiting. So.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
I want to ask about that because I actually feel like one of my biggest fascinations with this idea of sitcom acting in general, but especially for Will and Grace, especially because you guys took a 10-year hiatus, is does it get do you get into a routine or a comfort zone where you know how to get a laugh, you do that thing? Like, are you still learning new skills? And trying to challenge yourself? You guys keep getting funnier.
Yes. Thank you for that. I definitely feel like there are still challenges, which is, the goal.
That's the goal.
Yes. I mean, this season, there was an episode where Grace reveals that she was sexually assaulted by her dad's best friend. Mm-hmm. And, that was an incredible challenge. Sure. Especially in the world of Will and Grace, and it's supposed to be a comedy.
Right.
So trying to, do justice to the importance and the pain of the storyline, but also finding ways to have little blips of lightness.
Right.
And so in that storyline, that was the real challenge. Mm-hmm. In terms of comically, I think on some level there, the four of us together, it's kind of like, I say it's kind of like an orchestra playing, and each one of us plays a different instrument.
Oh, cool.
And we're the best when we're all together.
Yeah, yeah.
So something happens when the four of us are together. There's, there's a musicality.
Cool.
And
wow.
I think we play the music, and now because we've been doing it for so long, we know the music. Uh-huh. And we also know when the music is off.
Sure.
And so we can have that conversation with the writers and say, this moment doesn't go far enough.
Okay.
I feel like every script that I get nervous about, okay, how am I going to make this funny?
Oh, so every script.
Every script.
It never fails.
No.
That's actually good to know. It's
yeah.
actually good.
Yeah. I think that if I got to a place where, sitting back with a cigarette in my hand,
I've seen it all.
Seen it all, and like, okay, I can do this sleeping,
Right.
It's like, why are you doing it anymore?
No, you wouldn't want to be, you're not that kind of artist.
No. That I wouldn't be happy that way.
Right.
And I think because I've loved theater for so long, and my dream was actually to be a triple threat. Mm-hmm. And I find my greatest joy when I'm in a theater watching. I made some unconventional choices when it came to television. Sure. Right out of graduate school. When I first got out, there was a trend going on in TV where there were TV shows that had a female lead, but everybody around the female lead was funny.
Oh, uh-huh.
And the lead wasn't.
She's like the straight.
She's the straight woman. And so it was like suddenly Susan with Brooke Shields, right. Caroline in the City.
And the supporting characters are goofy.
The supporting characters. Yeah. And so I was, offered a script where I would play one of those people. And, I had never done TV, and I had, no money at all.
What are you going to say, no? Yeah.
And I said no.
Oh, you did?
I did say no. I did.
Okay.
And my agents are like, who the hell do you think you are?
Because this is right after grad school?
Right out of, I had no money. I could eat at dojos once a week. Uh-huh. At max,
This is the stuff we like to hear.
Yes. And every day on the way to, I would get my bagel on the corner for $1.50 and like.
What corner?
I would walk. I lived in the East Village.
Okay.
So it was on St. Mark's and 3rd Avenue.
Yes. Okay. Cool.
And so on my way to school, I'd get a banana from the Korean market, and then I would grab a bagel, and that would be it. Yeah. So yes, it was like, oh, okay, we have this audition for you, and I read it, and I was like, that won't make me happy.
Uh-huh. And that's the barometer?
That's the barometer. Yeah. Is, I read it, and, I read a script, And if I immediately am excited by it and start to envision things that I can bring to it, then I know that I'm in the right world. There have been scripts that I read that, were solid scripts, but I just felt like, anybody can play this. They don't. Right. I'm not going to bring anything special to this part, and so because I won't be happy.
Right.
And there are so many actresses out there who would love this part.
I see. That's what would almost not make you happy right there.
Yeah, and
if you had the part and you were like,
right. And I was like, and you're signing on for 7.5 years. Right. Before you've only done one episode.
Yeah, which is crazy.
Right. So no matter what, that commitment is huge. And so, which is why I haven't done a sitcom since Will and Grace, because I haven't read a script.
Mm-hmm. Before or after.
After, I haven't read a script since that has made me feel like this is fresh. Mm-hmm. This is a new voice. This is a character we haven't seen before.
Right.
So I'm still waiting.
And you're still waiting. And it sounds like Will and Grace, the first moment you read it, which I would love to hear about that moment.
Yeah.
Like, I love that it's contextualized in this trend of TV that you almost didn't really agree with. Like that Grace Adler was different from those other characters you'd seen. Yeah.
It was.
So that right there stood out.
Yes.
And then what really convinced you? What was like, oh, this could be it?
Jimmy Burrows.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who you had met?
I had never met before. I had a dream. I said that I would never move out to LA unless a job brought me.
Amazing.
And my dream that out of LA was I want to be on an NBC sitcom directed by Jim Burrows.
Really?
That was what I had sort of, put in my little bubble of wish lists.
Okay.
And I had actually gotten offered a sitcom on NBC that was going to be directed by Jim Burrows.
Oh.
And it was going to conflict with a play that I wanted to do in New York. And it was Collected Stories by Donald Margulies.
Okay, yeah.
And I read that script and I said, I have to be a part of this. I have to at least try. And I flew myself back to audition for it.
Wow.
And then I got the part, and I found out that the shooting of the pilot of this other one, they would conflict. And I said, I have to do the play.
Wow.
I have to, trust that another TV show will come along.
I see.
And I did the play, and it was, to this day, one of the, great, fulfilling creative experiences, and I'm so grateful for it. But I was doing a drama at the time when Will and Grace came to me. Mm. It was a short-lived show. I replaced an actress 10 days before it began.
Oh, wow.
And it was clear that it wasn't going to go, but I was the lead of, and there were only 5 cast members. Mm-hmm. So I was working 16-hour days. And I literally was, crawling into bed, and my boyfriend, I would pass out on the couch and he would carry me and put me in bed, and he would, set the alarm for 5 hours later to wake up to go back. And when we wrapped, I said to my agents, don't call me. I'm going to sleep for 2 months.
Totally.
And
totally.
I meant it. And then they called and they said, okay, we have a script that we think is special and we want you to read it. And I said, no, I'm too tired.
Oh my gosh. And it's Will and Grace.
Yeah. And they said, okay, stay in bed.
Oh, okay.
We're going to messenger it to you.
Okay. These are good agents.
Yes, read it in bed. Mm-hmm. And so I got into bed and I read it, and I was like, oh boy. Wow. I mean, instantly when I read it, I knew that this was something that was unlike anything else. Mm-hmm. The thing that really stuck out to me was that all 4 characters from the very first episode were really delineated.
Oh, sure.
And
they each had a voice.
Yes, yeah. And you generally don't see that.
Sure.
And
the first episode, yeah.
Yes, yeah. And the fact that Ellen had just come out on her show and it was canceled.
Yeah.
So here we were, the very first script after that, saying, okay, this is going to be a lead character who's gay.
Yeah.
And it felt very important to me.
I was going to say, it almost sounds like that was one of the reasons. Like,
it was.
This is important.
It was. I said, this is important. This has to happen. It's never been done before.
Yeah.
And
it's good.
And it's good. And if we could pull this off, this could really be special.
Wow. Yeah.
And so I went in and I met with Max and Dave, the show creators, and we had a great talk. And then I went home, and my agent called and said, "What'd you think?" And I said, "They're wonderful. I'm going back to sleep." And he was like, "Okay, hold on." He was like, "You should read with Eric McCormack." He had already been cast.
Oh, okay.
They had cast everybody, and they couldn't find Grace.
Really?
So this was already in the middle of pilot season. So they had for 5 months, they had been auditioning Grace, and they hadn't found her yet.
Wow.
And so they said, okay, we're going to have you go to Jimmy Burrows' house.
Oh, okay.
And you're going to read with Eric McCormack. You're going to meet him. It's going to be low-key, you know. Jimmy will be there. And I said, okay, I'll do that.
Sure.
And I got there, and you walk in, and it's like 700 Emmys. It's like, you know, it's like, oh, my God, this is the legend.
Which
I
throws
can't
you for a loop.
Believe that I'm in his home right now. I was just so excited. But they had flown Eric down from Canada.
Wow.
Because he was doing a drama. He's playing a cowboy.
Oh, my God.
And we met, and immediately we clicked, and we did a scene, and apparently there were 2 other women that they had brought in, and that day, and we didn't know that anyone else was coming in that day. And they said afterwards that I was the only Grace that laughed at Will.
Laughed at him?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
He made me laugh.
Uh-huh.
And they're like, and we realized best friends do that.
That's what they need.
They laugh at each other.
Sure. Yeah.
And and we just played, and it was really easy. And I thought, wow, okay, imagine myself for 7 years with this man as my partner. And I thought, wow, this is enticing. But I still wasn't sold. And then I was walking out to the car, and Jimmy Burrows comes out, and he's like, "Debra." I was like, "What?" He goes, "You gotta take the part."
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I was like, "Jimmy, I don't know."
Did he know, like, you had reservations just based on... Okay.
Yeah. And apparently, as soon as I walked out, they were like, "She's it." And so he came up to the car. And
but it's 7 years, so you really are like...
I was like, "I don't know." And he was like, "Trust me. A script like this does not come along. Trust me that you have to do the show." And so that was the thing that sort of pushed me over.
Right.
And here we are.
Here we are! That's so amazing. And also, like, right before that period of all of those gigs that you're balancing and you're not sleeping and you're so crazy, was it safe to say that was more of a dry spell before that?
When I was doing the
after
drama?
grad school and, before that?
You know, I didn't experience it as a dry spell. You know?
But compared to the crazy period.
Yeah. I mean, when I graduated, the first thing I did was I went and played Cecily in The Importance of Being Earnest out in Seattle.
Lovely.
And that was heaven. And it was also important because I had graduated graduate school with a plan that I was going to do all the great regional theaters.
Oh, cool.
I was like, this is what I want my career to be.
I love that. Yeah.
I want to play Hedda Gabler. I want to do Doll's House. I want to go to Arena, Goodman, Guthrie. You know, I want to go everywhere. And and there I am in Seattle, and my boyfriend, future husband, was back in New York.
Oh.
And I realized I'm not a gypsy. I'm miserable.
You need a home base.
Living out of a suitcase.
Yeah.
Even though I love the play, I love the cast. And so I came back and I called my agent and I said, change of plans. I'm only going to audition for things that are in New York City.
Okay, yeah.
And they said, wait a second, 95% of all acting jobs are outside of New York City. And I said, I understand that.
Wow.
And they're like, you understand it might be a while. I said, yeah, I understand that. And I said, I'll get a catering job, but I want a job in New York City. Wow. And so I got a catering job. I was a coat check girl at Sotheby's.
Okay.
And I was fired.
Oh. Oh, no. See, we love hearing these stories, too.
Yes, I was fired because I didn't understand the ticket, situation.
Totally.
So when people came up, I'd be like, oh, you know what? Just come in and grab your fur, whichever fur is yours. Okay,
it's
come
yours.
on in. They're like, oh, my briefcase. I'm like, oh, which one is it? So like literally anybody could have gone in and taken a different coat or a different briefcase.
Right.
And they're like, what are you doing?
Briefcase full of money.
And I was like, I didn't understand the ticket situation. They're like, yeah.
You're an actor.
Yes, you are fired. And then I auditioned for, to be understudy for Four Dogs and a Bone. By John Patrick Shanley, which was being done at the Manhattan Theater Club, and Mary Louise Parker and Polly Draper. And the two characters were 18 and 35. And I was understudying the older woman, and there was, I was 25, and I was understudying Polly, and then there was a younger woman who was understudying Mary Louise, and
how weird.
We rehearsed, and the first night that Mary Louise was out, they called this understudy, and she said, I quit.
What?
That day, because she was so...
You can't do that.
She was so terrified to go on that she said, I quit. So they called me, and they're like, Debra...
Can you do it?
Will you go on with a book in hand and play the other character?
What?
And I said, sure.
You said, sure. I've never heard of such a thing.
And I went on.
Oh, my God.
And then...
That sounds like the craziest performance of your life.
Yes.
How do you...
Then they said, okay, guess what? You're going to be both understudies from now on. So I learned both roles. And
this is like a full-length play.
Yes. And at this point, Mary Louise Parker was doing Bullets Over Broadway, Woody Allen film. So she was missing a lot. And then Polly was shooting something in L.A. So I would play one part one day, and then the next part the other part.
Did you really?
And all of the scenes were just two people.
Right.
And so there were scenes with the two women. And so I would be on stage knowing all the lines. And it was.
That sounds like the biggest acting challenge.
It was the biggest acting challenge of my life. And I did it for 7 months.
And what?
I did it for 7 months.
And sounds like way more than any understudy's ever done any role. Certainly not 2 roles.
I mean, they were like, look, we don't have them at this point, They're like, look, she'll do it.
We don't trust you.
We don't have to pay her double. We'll pay her.
She said yes.
She said yes. We'll save a little money. We don't have to have a second understudy.
That's so funny.
And then I got an audition for Paul Rudnick's off-Broadway play, The Naked Truth, at the WPA. And this was a new play, and I would be creating a new character. And I went in, and I got it. And so this was my first... part in New York. And so I left Four Dogs and a Bone in order to do that, and with J. Smith Cameron. And it was wonderful. Gosh. And then I got cast in my first movie, A Walk in the Clouds with Keanu Reeves.
Which was filmed here. Which
was shot in Napa Valley.
Oh, okay.
And L.A. And...
But a movie's different because it's a one-off thing. You're not.
Yeah, I was there for 3 weeks.
Yeah. Okay.
And then after that, I had an audition for NYPD Blue.
Right.
And it
was
your
first TV.
My first TV, and it was Gail O'Grady's wayward sister, and it was supposed to be, one part, and they were in shooting at Thompson Square Park. And they're like, go down, there's going to be a honey wagon, and you'll audition in the honey wagon. And I went, and the producer was sitting on the toilet, and I was sitting in the other chair in this tiny honey wagon, and I auditioned, and I got the part.
That's how you auditioned?
Yeah, in the honey wagon.
Because I was going to ask later, like, what's your craziest audition story? It's that.
Yeah. And then I went, and it went well, and they're like, oh, we're going to write 2 more episodes, so hang out.
Nice. Oh.
So I was there for a week, and my agents didn't know me out in L.A., and so I was like, all right, hi, everybody. Will you send me on just generals?
Yeah.
And so I went to Fox, and they said, oh, okay, you're fresh out of school. What would you like to do? And I said, Mad About You, Friends.
Love.
These are things that I'm interested in. And they said, great. Well, if we have a script that you think you're right for, let us know. And I said, well, you do.
Oh.
And they're like, what? Well, what is it? And I said, it's called Ned and Stacy. And they're like, oh, we've got to get you an audition. And I said, oh, I already auditioned in New York. And they're like, what happened? I said, I don't know. I never heard anything.
Oh, my God.
And they're like, oh, okay. Well, you know what? We're going to get you in again. And I said, great. So
this is all because of the in-person meeting that you, just scheduled with them.
And I said, okay. And so I walk in, and I see Michael Whitehorn, the creator of the show, for a second time. And I say, hi. And he says, okay, look. I like you. I think you're talented. I'm sorry, you are wrong for this part.
Oh.
And I said, okay. And I said, can you tell me what this character is? And he said, it's a neurotic Jew from New York. And I said, hello, hello, hello. And I said, what did you think I was? And he said, I think of you as Midwestern girl.
Oh, weird. Oh. Does that happen often in your career before this point?
No.
Oh.
I was confused by it. And I said, look, let's make a deal. I said, let me make an adjustment. And if you don't like it, you will never hear from me again. Audition. Nobody will force you to see me again. I will, God bless, and I'll leave you alone.
Yeah, yeah.
And it just so happened that the casting director had seen me in 4 Dogs and a Bone.
No way. In which part?
In Polly Draper's one, which was, a New York woman.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, I've seen her in that play. Let her try.
Oh, my God.
And then he said, all right, go ahead. And I did it, and I got the part.
Oh, my God. There's so many lessons to be gleaned from everything you just said. This idea of, do the play, say yes to the understudy role, obviously. Follow your gut.
Your gut.
Follow your passions.
Yeah.
And, it's also this interconnected thing of, an audition for a gig now is really an audition for a gig down the road.
That's right.
Doing a play now is, you never know who's going to see it.
And advocating for yourself.
Definitely. I mean, that sounds crazy. And, here you are going, no, I know what I want.
And I know I can do it.
Yeah.
And, and I do think that, we as actors are set up to feel, so we're begging for jobs when we walk into that room. And, that even taking up space, you're apologizing for taking up space. And I think what's most important is to realize that, those 5 minutes, those are your 5 minutes. Mm-hmm. So you own them. It's your time. And if you start and it's off to a bad start, you say, I'm sorry, can we start over? Mm-hmm. You don't, you don't worry about their feelings.
Yeah, that's so tough. Yeah.
Because I know that I went on auditions and halfway through I'm like, oh, I am literally thinking about that I need to buy, toilet paper right now. I am not in the scene. Yeah. And I didn't stop because I felt like I couldn't stop.
And that's a mistake. Yeah.
But you learn,
Totally.
that it only hurts you not to say, you know what, I believe in myself. I've had training, and, even though I have nothing on my resume, I believe in myself. Give me a shot.
Yeah. That is the thing to learn and to relearn and to master. You have to actually practice. This is life advice, too. The idea of taking up space without saying, I'm so sorry I'm inconveniencing you.
Yeah.
I know that I'm just a measly this or measly that, and, I'm so sorry for taking up your time, but here I am, and here's my thing. It's no, own it.
There was a movie that I read, and I was like, oh, I would love to do that. It's, a supporting part. And my agent said, they won't even let you come into the room.
Wait, why?
Because you're Grace.
Oh.
And I said...
Oh, how often does this happen?
And I said, well, that's crazy. And I said, you know what? I'm going to write the director a letter.
Okay.
And so I wrote him a letter. And I said, I know that you're hesitant because of Grace. But I promise you that I am a trained actor. And I know that I can bring something very specific to this part in the world that has been created in the script.
Sure.
And, and if you give me the opportunity, I feel confident that I can do any direction that you throw at me, if you just give me the chance. Mm-hmm. And he gave me the chance. I got the part.
Oh, my God. What movie was that?
It was a bad movie.
After all that.
It was Lucky You.
Thank you for being so frank.
Yes, it was. It was written by William Goldman. I mean, one of the great screenwriters of all time. And when I read it, it was a dark script, and it was great. I mean, it was Drew Barrymore and Robert Duvall.
Oh,
Okay, so I'm like,
that sounds great.
This is great.
Yeah.
And
it just didn't
and
click.
then the studio, they were like, oh, well, we have Drew Barrymore. Let's make this lighter. Let's make this more romantic. And I think that I didn't think it worked.
Right.
I think if they had kept it the way it was written, the tone of it, I think it would have worked better.
I see.
But I'm glad I did it.
And that you again advocated for yourself. This episode is brought to you by Succession on HBO. Critics hailed the first season of Succession as the best show on television, irresistible entertainment, and a must-watch show. For your Emmy consideration in Outstanding Drama Series and all other categories, visit hbo.com/FYC for more on Succession. So this thing about Grace, first of all, did you kind of think or know, because that's often a thing with TV actors, especially maybe a sitcom, you become known for one part.
Yeah.
And does that does that minimize the possibility of getting others?
Absolutely.
Maybe. Yeah.
Oh, no, for sure.
And did you know that going into it?
Yes, but at that point, the idea that I would be on a show that would actually last long enough for me to be known, at that time, the idea of a show running 7 years, most shows don't make it after 1 year.
Sure.
So in my mind, I wasn't thinking that way. Mm-hmm. But once the show became successful and we won the Emmy in the second season and we started being really recognizable, it became very clear that we were going to be known for these characters. Yeah. And, I feel, I know I'm going to be Grace until the day I die.
Okay.
And I'm proud of that.
Good.
It's something that, I love her. And I think because I've had the opportunity to go on and do, other TV shows and a Broadway show, and, I feel like as long as you give me the chance to be a storyteller, I'm fine being Grace.
Yeah.
It's when you say, no.
She's only Grace.
She's only Grace. Yeah. And that's something that we have no control over.
Yeah. Short of writing and producing your own work.
That's right.
Yeah.
And it's something, everything has a downside, right?
Yeah.
Everything has an upside, everything has a downside. And so, this beautiful show that became important to, a whole community of people and became socially important and was funny consistently, that's all amazing. The downside is that, okay, I'm not going to be on anybody's short list for any film that, is like Ivory Merchant Ivory, something like, Sense and Sensibility.
Sure.
Any movie like that, I would not even be in the ether of conversation.
Sure. Or other genres or other...
Yeah.
Just kind of depending on the material.
Yeah. And it's... Yeah.
I mean, I loved Searching so much.
I was just about to bring that up. Thank you.
Loved that movie. And I do feel like, a different side of you, I think.
Yeah.
A little bit.
And I was grateful that, this kid, he was 23 years old.
Amazing.
Yeah. And, his first script that he ever wrote and the first thing he ever directed.
Oh, my God. The directing was incredible.
And I thought, and he came to me and I was like, oh, you're coming to me because, 80 people said no.
Oh, no.
Because I said, I'm not the obvious choice for this,
Oh, okay.
And he said, no. He said, I saw you on Mysteries of Laura, and there was something about in one of the scenes that I thought of you.
Cool.
And he said, because this character, you have to feel something for this character before everything drops out at the end.
Oh, mm-hmm.
And I said, okay. But, I said that I was so grateful that he took that chance on me.
Yeah.
Because it did give me the opportunity to put something else out there and surprise people and be like, for people to say, oh, I didn't think she could do that. All right, well, maybe we can consider her for X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
And
it sounds like you've accepted that while at the same time you're very much wanting people to see you as not Grace Adler for other projects.
Yes.
For anything that can challenge you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think Hollywood is slowly but surely waking up to being more creative in their casting choices.
Absolutely.
I hope. Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, when I started 20 years ago on Will and Grace, it started
Oh my gosh.
It was 20 years ago.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
There was no commingling of the TV and film.
Yeah.
And now now especially movie actresses are realizing that television is the holy grail.
Yeah.
Because they actually can be part of stories that are focused on women and have really great female parts. So now there isn't that sort of stink that was on TV for a very long time. Oh, you're a TV actor.
Yeah. Totally.
And I think it's great. I think it's how it should be.
Totally. I think there was even a thing of being just a sitcom actor isn't as much of a thing anymore too, because sitcoms, as Will and Grace proves, can be substantial.
And I think that someone like Bryan Cranston has really done something huge for sitcom actors and actresses. He played this over-the-top, goofy, hilarious, physically funny guy on Malcolm in the Middle for 7 years.
Yeah.
And
that was his, people know him for that.
Yes.
Yeah.
But then he went on, to play this...
The opposite.
The opposite.
Yeah.
He shaved his head and, and then he did these, extraordinary, Broadway plays and, and so I think he is sort of the living embodiment of, when we look at an actor on TV in a sitcom, let's not think that that's all they can do.
Totally. Yeah. If anything, I consider I've had this theory forever that it's people who are good at comedy or who are trained in the comedy world can much more easily switch over to the drama side of things than the other way around.
I think that's true.
I mean, you grew up doing both, I suppose.
Yeah.
And the theater, of course, is a crucial part of that.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I love hearing about the similarities between theater work and multicam sitcom.
Oh, it's the closest thing to doing theater.
That's so cool.
I mean, it's so cool. That's what makes it it's so exciting because you have a live audience and it's a different audience every episode.
Right.
And you have that dialogue that you with the audience the way you do when you're doing a play. Mm-hmm. And you're rehearsing and you think certain things are going to land a certain way and then you get the audience and it just doesn't happen. Mm-hmm. The difference, though, is that with sitcoms, as soon as it doesn't work, 11 writers get into a scrum and they, like little bees, they all, and then they come out and they're like, okay, cut that. Now this is your new line.
Right.
And it becomes more like improv in a way.
Sure.
Not that we write anything, in the way that you have to drop things and immediately pick up something that
is improv.
When you watch any episode of Will and Grace, 25% of what you're seeing, it's the first time that those words are coming out of our mouth.
Because you don't do more than how many takes?
2?
Isn't that
3?
amazing? Yeah.
You know, and I mean, if they have, you know, a lot of great options, you know, some of them are filthy dirty that we do just to like excite the audience, to wake them up.
Okay.
You know, and then there are some that are questionable that we want to get through standards and practices. Yes, and so it's like let's get it. Let's put it on film so that we can advocate and fight for this line.
If it's better suited for that,
and you know, and then someone from standards and practices will be like, "No, I need a cleaner line than that as an option."
And then you're like drawing lines in the sand.
And then they negotiate.
And you said earlier that you and your other 3 stars, like you've gotten to the point where you know what works and what doesn't as well.
Yes,
and so you know how to contribute to that quote unquote improv.
The thing that was really amazing and unlike I think any other sitcom I know of, when we began, they were open to being collaborators from the very beginning.
Amazing.
You
Which
know,
also sounds rare.
It never happens.
Yeah.
You know, most of the time, you know, you are literally a dancing monkey.
Sure.
Before it actually takes off. It's like, okay, we need to get this picked up. So I need you to do this, and I need you to do this, and do that, and that, and that. Okay, and let's like.
Yeah. I don't have time for your input.
But they were like, you know what? This is a democracy, and the best idea wins, and it doesn't matter who, you know, where the idea comes from.
Amazing.
So from the very beginning, we gave input, but you know, now we are clearly in a different place because of how much we've done. Now we do know immediately if something works, and I think that it's actually made it more fun, and it's made it easier because now if we rehearse something and we know something doesn't feel right, we know that the writers are going to see it. And we know they're going to fix it.
Okay.
So we don't have to worry and be like, oh, do you think that, you know what, this doesn't feel right.
And how do I say this?
And this is why it doesn't feel right. And, you know, I think that, you know, maybe this blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
You know, now it's a shorthand.
Right.
Now it's like, you know, this, they're like, yeah, we got it.
Totally.
It's like, cool.
That's what trust is.
Yes.
That's like mass.
Complete trust.
Cooperation and yes. Communication.
And it's hard to trust in the beginning.
Oh, sure. Yeah, for any long-running project, I feel like.
Yeah.
And I almost feel like because they had the faith in the actors to have you guys give that kind of feedback and that everything is a democracy thing, I think that translates to the screen. Like, I think that that's part of why the chemistry is so strong. Like, that's part of the success of the show almost. Whereas if you guys had been more dancing monkeys,
we wouldn't be invested.
Maybe it wouldn't have lasted as long.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be quite as effective.
Absolutely, because when you know that you have a voice, you know, you take a step toward the project. When you don't have a voice, you'll sit back. Yeah. Because you can't contribute anything. Mm-hmm. You know, my feeling is I always need a voice. I don't have to win all the time. Sure. I just need to be heard. Mm-hmm. So, you know, if I have an opinion about this, I just want you to hear it. Mm-hmm. And if you say, I see the value of that, but no. it's not serving us right now, I'll be like, great. Yeah. You know, and then you can move on and feel like at least it allows you to feel like there's hope and there's a reason to come up with ideas. Yeah, right there at your job. Yeah. At your job. Totally. But if they're like, you know what? My first job, Ned and Stacy, they did not want any of my input. Sure. At all. Dancing monkey. I was a dancing monkey. Yeah. And I literally called my agent in New York and I was like, you know what? I don't think I'm built for Hollywood. I think after this I'm just going to come home and do theater because I really miss the collaboration. And
it sounds like these dreams, you have the dream and then you got to adjust it. You have the dream and then you got to adjust it.
yeah, that's
Trying
right.
the vagabond or the gypsy life and then you're like, nope.
Nope.
Trying the Hollywood thing and then you're like, maybe nope.
Nope.
And then it helps you get, by knowing what you don't want, helps you get to what you want.
That's right.
But where did that come from so early? Like, it really sounds like you're so in touch with that and you were so resolute in pursuing it. Like, where does that determination come from? Like, we've heard a wide range of advice on this podcast about whether to say yes to everything or whether to be picky. And like you said, you were barely eating and you're still saying no to that sitcom, you know?
Yeah.
Where does that quality come from?
I think part of it is just knowing who you are.
Mm-hmm. Outside of the acting world.
Just knowing, it's like I knew once I did, my gig in Seattle, I knew that I could not be happy taking a job playing Hedda Gabler at the Guthrie. Because I just am not built to be away. I'm a nester.
Yeah.
And so, when you just sit back and you be like, you know what, I have needs. I have things that make me feel safe. I have things that excite me. I have things that make me shut down. And to sort of take note as you make these decisions, what is working for you and what isn't. And your opinion is more important than anybody else's.
That's so crucial. Yeah.
And you're desperate for an agent, and then you get an agent, and you want to be a good client, and they might be like, oh no, this is really great. It is hard. It is hard to take a step back and say, yes, but how do I feel about it?
Yeah.
And I think it's important to take that moment to see how you feel about it before asking anybody else what they think.
Before. Yeah. Yeah. And then maybe take that into consideration.
And you may change your mind.
Sure. Right.
But at least, you are clear about the pros and cons.
Yeah. Well, and it reminds me of the Jim Burrows moment of like, you weren't clear. I mean, you were on the fence still.
I was on the fence.
And he pushed you over because you first checked in with yourself and then
and because of who he was.
Well,
he was a legend and he knew the landscape. And for him to say,
I'm certain
this script is special and these scripts do not come along, that's what made me feel like, that. Okay, I can trust this.
And like you said, he was one of those visions of the,
yes, he
of
was.
The plan. And so you're like, well, this counts as part of the dream. So
it does. Yeah.
Go for it.
Yeah.
It's tough to decide when to say yes and when to say no. And I think that advice about checking with yourself first is so crucial.
Yeah.
For anything.
And also, another thing I learned was that, you have plans and plans are going to change because life happens.
Yeah.
I got married. I had a child. I got divorced. There were job offers that I was given and that were thrilling. And I was like, you know what? I've got a toddler right now, and my husband is working in New York, and I'm in LA with my toddler.
Right.
And no,
can I say no?
It's not. It doesn't work with my life.
Yeah.
And to be able to say, you know what? It's okay to prioritize your life over your work.
Yes. Yeah. And in fact, I feel like there's that thing too of, I think Meryl Streep at one point said, I'm going to work only in New York as well because of the family thing of like not wanting to be far from that. And by saying no and narrowing down the options, it actually might be a better path than saying yes to everything and going wherever.
Yeah.
Because then the universe or Hollywood or whatever is like, oh, well, she only wants to do the projects here, so let's make that work.
Yes.
Rather than this thing of like, well, she's a dancing monkey and she'll do whatever.
When I was offered Mysteries of Laura, it was set in Los Angeles.
Oh.
And the offer came, and I read it, and I said, there's a lot here that I'm interested in, and I said, but I will not do it unless it's in New York.
It's a New York show.
And they said...
And you changed that whole thing?
And they said, okay.
Oh, my God.
We'll change it to New York.
And so did you then feel like, well, now I'm very committed to this because I single-handedly changed the direction of the show.
I still needed answers to things, you know, but I just wanted to be honest and upfront. You know, it's like I can't even consider this because my son is in school,
right?
And I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
And you know, if you need to keep it in LA, I totally get it, and I respect that. And thank you so much for the offer, but I'm going to have to, you know, graciously pass because of my son.
And that's powerful. There's yes and there's no, but then there's also no, but. Like if you go to them and you say no, but yes, if.
Yes.
New York, for example.
Yeah.
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 That's amazing. And it sounds like so often with you, you ask for something and people say yes just because you have the wherewithal to ask. The first step of
that's the thing is asking.
And being specific.
Yeah.
That letter you wrote was specific to that director.
You know, and I know that you know, I'm sure there are agents out there who would say, "Don't rock the boat." You know, you don't want to ask for that because you don't want to seem high maintenance.
Yeah. Or,
you know, like, who the hell do you think you are?
Right.
You know, but it's your life.
Yeah.
It's your life, and you know, it's
don't apologize.
You're not, and you're not going to win everything. You're not going to win every time.
No. And you're going to get a lot of the things that you're not going to get a lot of things that you want.
That's right.
In that biz, in the business, but also in life, and
yeah,
might as well accept that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really good advice. That's really good acting advice. Just the right amount, just the mix of pessimism and optimism that we want on this podcast.
Yeah.
Can I ask too, like, we got to go soon, but advice, I wanted to ask advice in terms of like, Celia Keenan-Bolger of To Kill a Mockingbird was just sitting here.
Oh gosh, she was amazing.
And I asked her, what can actors do to save the world? And I almost want to ask the same thing of like, our world is right
yes,
now.
It is.
And our country is crumbling. And yeah, a lot of that is happening right now. And I so admire your mix of arts and activism. And I wonder if you have like, first of all, like a policy on that, but then, you know, how can early career artists
I think right now, with all of the pain and dissension and hatred and vitriol that is just sort of permeating everything right now in our country, I think the greatest and most important thing that we can do as artists is to put out work that is life-affirming. So to do plays, to write to put art out, because I think it does change hearts.
Totally.
And, you know, as for activism, that's a very, very personal choice.
Okay.
And, you know, I made the choice, you know, that because of Will and Grace, I was given a platform, and I felt an obligation to use that platform for good, and to not just do nothing with it.
Right.
Because there's something about fame that is just incredibly unnatural.
Yes.
And I wanted to sort of take control of it and make it something good.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's about aligning myself with people who are like-minded, to look for projects that are socially responsible. To say no to things that, you know, are ambivalent. You know, because right now, I think being ambivalent is the same thing as saying, yes, I approve of everything that's happening right now.
Not picking a side is,
you know, but there are a lot of, I've learned, there are a lot of actors who just say, you know what, I cannot risk it. I cannot risk
saying something,
making a choice for a side.
Right.
Because that is an audience. So I will be pushing away 50% of a potential audience. And, you know, if I want to get this movie made, You know, I can't be that person. I can't, you know, and there are a lot of people who feel that way.
Sure.
And that's fine for them.
Yeah.
You know, for me, it feeds me. It feeds me to be an activist, and I feel like I've always been a perpetual student. Mm-hmm. And so to interact with people who are smarter than me and know much more about many, many different fields,
sure.
It just it literally feeds me, and inspires me and gives me a spark.
Yeah. And all of that goes back to the thing of like, you can't say yes to everything. You can't say yes to something that you don't agree with.
No.
Thank you so much. That was amazing. I have to let you go.
Okay.
Do you have any parting words of wisdom for early career actors?
Study. Mm-hmm. Study. You know, I feel like if you can't be in a class, you know, every month get a group of your friends and say, come to my living room. We are going to read The Three Sisters out loud.
Yeah.
You know, any chance that you can to be creative, to be challenged. It doesn't have to be seen by anybody, but just a constant reminder that you are an artist, whether you're working or not. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the most important thing.
Love it. You really brought it full circle. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
In the Envelope, an awards podcast, is recorded at Lotus Productions, Hyperbolic Audio, and Big Yellow Duck in New York City, and Soundbox LA, Mark Grouse Studios, and Buzzies in Los Angeles. Like, subscribe, tell your friends, tweet us at In the Envelope, leave a review. We want to hear from you. Visit Backstage.com for more content and resources for working artists, and don't forget, you can subscribe to Backstage with a free trial by using the code ENVELOPE at checkout. Thanks as always to podcast producer Wiz, Jamie Muffett. You can follow him on Twitter at Jamie Music NYC. You can follow me, Jack Smart, on Twitter at Jack Smart Writes. Thank you to the team at Backstage, the most trusted name in casting: Mark Stinson, Samantha Sherlock, Francis Ramos, Caitlin Watkins, and especially should-be Oscar nominee Kasey Howe. Thanks for listening.
On the next episode of In the Envelope, Seth Meyers.
I think my message of hope would be that, you know, if you really believe you have something to say and something to share, you have to put your heart into getting that message out there. And you have to, you know, if there's that message that's in you that you, be it your talent or be it something you want to say specific to the moment we're living in, just keep working on your instrument. You know, if you're a writer, keep working on it. If you're a performer, keep working on it. Because if you value it, there's a high likelihood that the audience will value it too, but they will, going back to what we were saying about hard work, like they're going to see the work you put into it. And if you aren't going to put the work into it, the audience will tell that you actually don't think it's that important either.